Welcome back to my channel for your heart and home. My name is Dee Dee. Welcome into my kitchen. Today I'm sharing just a few things I got done in my kitchen today. We have a field trip planned for the day after I filmed this, and so I wanted to get a few things prepped and ready to go so we could grab and go in the morning. We were having a really warm day, and so my children were asking for a smoothie. So before I did any kind of meal prep, I decided to get going and make a quick smoothie. This smoothie was just made simply with some frozen strawberries, a bit of lemonade to add as the liquid base. I did it in my blender and I made a quick smoothie for everyone to enjoy while I was working in the kitchen. I like these kinds of things because they're simple, they're easy, and they're done in no time. And I shared in a previous video that when I do the monthly shop, I like to buy both fresh vegetables and fruits as well as frozen fruits. And so I keep the frozen fruits for the latter part of the month when we have run out of fresh fruits, and I could still provide my children with the vitamins and nutrients that they will get just in frozen form. And it is a wonderful time now that it's warming up to enjoy some smoothies, and so it was a perfect day for a smoothie and my kids loved it. So like I said before, it's spring, it's warming up here, and we are ready to get out and get going. We are almost through with much of our schoolwork for the year, and so our schedule is a little bit looser and we can be a lot more flexible. My oldest is gearing up to have his exams done for the school year, and my two younger children are almost through the end of their curriculum. So the day after this was a perfect time to take a quick field trip, and so that's what we did. And we really enjoyed it. It has been a while since we visited the museum that we went to, and they had a lot of new things for us to see and explore. And so it was a welcomed trip, and it was the perfect time to do that. So one of the first things I'm prepping this day will be banana muffins. As you can see, I had some bananas that needed to get used up, and muffins were an easy grab and go option for us. Again, I wanted to have something easy to take with us on the trip as a snack, as well as something they could have in the morning, and we wouldn't have to worry about a huge breakfast because we had to leave early the next day. So I'm using a very basic and simple banana bread recipe. If you're interested, I will link my blog in the description box below, and on my blog you'll find tons of free, easy to use recipes, things that I use on a regular basis in my home making days, and you're welcome to have them there on the blog. So this is just a very basic banana bread recipe actually that I am just putting into muffin containers so that it's an easier grab and go option. You will see that I will run out of my muffin tin containers, and so I had to come up or engineer a new way to use up the rest of my muffin batter, and I'll show you in a few minutes what I did with that. I simply just took a regular oven safe dish and I put my silicone cups inside of that dish, and I just poured my batter into that, and because they were cooking next to each other, essentially they held each other up in the oven. It worked out great, and it was just one way to use up the rest of the batter without having to worry about having another muffin container. So we really look forward to springtime in our homeschool schedule because it's a new beginning. Fall is a time when we just get started and we are energized and excited to dive into the new curriculum. And then winter comes along and it kind of drags itself. And it can be a time when we get really bogged down in schoolwork and in our routine, and it can become monotonous. But here comes spring, and it kind of really breathes new life into our homeschooling days. And so it's a wonderful time for us to say, okay, let's take stock. What do we have left to do? And what can we now squeeze into our schedule now that things are looser and a little bit more flexible? So, like I said, we are excited to almost be finished with our curriculum that we want to get through for this time. And then we're already thinking about and looking forward to the next school year. We're taking stock to see, okay, what worked for us this year and what do we want to change. Now, I currently have a ninth grader, a fifth grader, and a second grader. And I'm following very loosely the standards that are set in place by our state. And I try my best to loop things together because I have three on three different levels, and it's hard to plan three separate levels for every single subject every single day. And so if I can do some kind of grouping together to do some kind of group learning, it helps me to hit the targets for each child, but also minimizes how much planning I have to do on my end. One thing that has helped me as I have grown as a homeschooling mother is shifting as much as I can to a digital platform. Now, when I first started with my son, we did a lot of paper and pencil work. I was laminating every weekend. I was cutting out lamination. I was Velcroing. I was going through paper and lamination up the wazoo. And I enjoyed that. That was one of the fun parts for me of teaching. And when I was in the classroom, I did that for my students as well. So this naturally carried over when I started working with our son in that capacity. But as we have added more children and as I have streamlined things, I'm realizing that the hands-on stuff is super important. And all the things that I had prepped for my son, I was able to use with both our daughters after. And so it wasn't a waste of time to have laminated those things and have kept those things in working order because, like I said, with the addition of each child, I was able to use all of those resources. Now that my children are older, we still gravitate towards hands-on activities, but I have shifted a lot of our work to the digital space. By shifting to the digital space, it reduces clutter, it reduces the amount of paperwork that I have to keep track of, and it keeps everything in one neat location and I can access it whenever I need to. That has really made a huge difference, and this was the first year where so many things were done digitally, and I will continue to do that next year because it really was a shift that helped with dealing with the overwhelm that comes with homeschooling. Now, we still utilize workbooks and we often skip around in our workbooks if we need to. So we do continue to do table time work. And again, we still do hands-on activities, especially for science, but most of the work that they have to complete is done in the digital space. My children now have a routine where they understand all that is expected of them each day, and so they can independently at 13, 9, and 7, they can get up, they can sign on to their digital platform, and they can get right to work. And I can hop around to each child and I can be an assistant to them as they complete their assignments. I also like the digital space because it provides for them a look of what is coming up. So they understand due dates, they understand that there's a consequence if they miss a due date. And so that helps them with their executive functioning skills. It helps them to plan ahead. It helps them to see the big picture, and it helps them to manage their time. Our homeschooling days are pretty flexible, but they also have a structure. They're expected to wake up between 7 and 7:30. They get themselves cleaned up for the day. They get themselves something to eat, and by 8 o'clock, it's time to start schoolwork. They need to sign on, their assignments have been posted, and they get right to work. Most days, we are done with all of our book work by the latest noon. There are days when we run over 12 o'clock time periods. There are days when we end early. That is just a frame, and it's not something that is hard and fast, and we're not stressing if we don't end at 12. There are some lessons that I said they are quick and they're done and it's not a problem, but there's some lessons that require that extra time. And so it's just a framework. It's not something that we absolutely have to do, but that flexibility is there for us to be ending at noon. By the time they finish with their lessons, it's time for lunch. And so we clean up and we have a quick lunch. When the weather allows, we like to go for a walk, especially now that it's warming up. We go for a walk and, just get our bodies reset. Nature has a wonderful way of resetting ourselves. And so going for a walk is a wonderful thing to do at that time. When we get back home, the children have the afternoon to do as they please. They have options just like other children. They can do building games, they can do board games, they can watch TV, they can do whatever it is that they're interested in doing. They have craft time, they have art time, they love to draw, and so they like to follow tutorials. So there will be times when they will follow an art tutorial, or they would watch a movie or something like that. Whatever it is that they're drawn to do, the afternoon is theirs and they do with it as they see fit. Now, the afternoon is my time to do whatever I see fit. I use that time to do meal prep. So there are days when I can homeschool and meal prep simultaneously, and there are days when the entire morning is used for homeschool. And so depending on the day, if I was able to do some meal prep in the morning, then in the afternoon I will finish that up and I will get dinner going. If I have extra time, I might be able to use that time as well to do other things. Now, in previous videos, I've sort of gone through my adult schedule for the day, but I'll quickly run through that again for you right now. So I shared before that most days I'm up between 4 and 5, and I use those first few hours to do whatever needs to be done for our business. So I'm answering emails, I am editing videos, whatever it is that needs to be done gets done in that time block. My husband is up around like 6:30 and he gets ready and gets going for work. By 7:30 when he leaves, the children are waking up and again they're getting ready to get ready for a homeschool day. And then that rolls right into homeschool time. After that, we have lunch, like I said, and then it's meal prep time. And then we switch over to dinner. After dinner, we go to downtime, getting the kids ready for bed and sleeping time. So that's kind of the gist of the ebb and flow of my life. And I weave in and out of that pretty much every day. And so that's what works for me. Now, it's not every day that I'm up at 4. There's some days I'm sleeping in on purpose because I need that extra time to sleep and I have that flexibility in my schedule. If I've thought ahead and I say, okay, let me see what I can get done, that way I don't need those 2 hours in the morning to do work for the business, then I will sleep in and I'll take the time that I need. I do the same thing for our children, which is why I'm drawn to the whole concept of homeschooling. While we do have that schedule, it is also a flexible schedule. So if we have appointments, if we want to take a field trip, if somebody's not feeling well one day, then we say, okay, we'll change the schedule. We won't force it and we'll give that person or persons time to recover. We've taken mental health days because we just needed a break. And so I love that flexibility. And when you join the whole homeschooling community, you realize that it's not this little boxed thing that stays in a corner. Homeschooling is a lifestyle, and learning is always happening. So if we don't have time, or if we take time away from doing a workbook page on this day, for example, I am not so worried because one, we're going to come back to that page, and two, because my child is learning other things as well. Because just as important as finishing that worksheet or that activity is listening to our bodies and doing what our bodies need. So rather than sit there and power through some assignment that is important, yes, equally important is our mental health, equally important is our physical health. So I love that flexibility of being able to say, what do we need today and how can we meet those needs? So I listen to my body, and if there are days when I don't want to get up at 4 o'clock, I don't get up at 4 o'clock. That's just a skeleton that I follow, and it works for me most days, and some days it doesn't. And that's how life is. I try not to put too much pressure on myself because I have to be my best self for the people who I am working with and for my family. And so I show that to my children through modeling behavior. If there are days when I can't do a whole bunch of meal prep in the kitchen, I don't do a whole bunch of meal prep. I will literally make an announcement. Okay, today I will not be doing X, Y, and Z because I am going to rest. And so when my children see me modeling this behavior, when they're having a tough time and they need time to step away from their schoolwork, they understand that mom understands and will allow it. So I understand and I appreciate that aspect of homeschooling. The idea that it's a journey, and the idea that it's a part of our lifestyle. It's not just this little thing that we put away in a box. And because we're always learning, we will come back to this. We will come back to this moment, whether it's tough, whether we need a break, because again, everything is equally important, but we have to prioritize those important things from time to time. So another thing I was working on today is making some cookies. Now, you've seen me in previous videos make this delicious chocolate chip cookie recipe, and I wanted to give something else a try today. So I was making essentially a double chocolate chip and peanut butter chip cookie, and I followed the recipe. This was my first time doing this, and I followed the recipe. I thought that the cookie dough came out just fine. They baked up pretty well. But for me, based on my interpretation and based on my preference of cookies, I thought the cookies turned out a little dry. My family, on the other hand, they loved it. But me, I think I would have to tweak the recipe. I like a soft, chewy cookie, not a hard, crispy cookie. And I think that's probably where the dissension lies. But it's not that it was a bad cookie. It's just I would have preferred it be a softer, chewier texture. But it worked out fine. I do not have this recipe on my blog, but I will try to find something similar, and I will link it in the description box below so that if you would like to give this a try, you can go ahead. If you have made this style of cookie before and it worked out great for you and you're willing to share a recipe with me, I will gladly take it, because this is something that I feel like I'm going to have to work on so that I can create something that everyone likes and doesn't create such division in our opinions of the double chocolate chip peanut butter chip cookie. So in addition to making cookies this day, I also made 2 loaves of bread. I made 2 loaves of bread because I knew we were going on a field trip the following day and I was going to be making sandwiches to serve as our lunch. And I made 2 loaves of bread and they came out great. If you've watched my previous videos, you know that I have a bread machine and I let my bread machine do all the work. I put all the ingredients in the bread machine, and once it finishes the dough cycle, which takes about an hour and a half, I will turn it out onto a clean surface. I will cut the dough in two, I will shape it, and then I will set it in my cast iron pans. After doing a generous layer of butter, I will let it do a second rise, and then I will finish off the bake in my oven. I do not use my bread machine for baking my bread. I find that the bread is too tall when it bakes in my bread machine, and so I like to take the 2 pound loaf, break it into 1 pound loaves, and then finish it off in my oven. For dinner this day, I was making some spaghetti and minced chicken, or we like to call it goulash. The recipe for this is on my blog, and I will have that in the description box below. I also have the recipe for the sandwich bread on my blog, so if you'd like that as well, feel free to go there and check that out. So I was making the spaghetti for dinner that night. I am using freshly milled flour, and this is delicious. I am slowly changing over all of our recipes to freshly milled flour because it is delicious. I find that our food is far more flavorful. But today I'm using durum wheat and I'm making some spaghetti for tonight's goulash. So right now I am milling my flour using my flour grinder, and I'm using a very specific recipe, and I will link in the description box below the creator where I got this recipe from. Now, if you're using freshly milled flour and you're new to this process, there's a learning curve. Freshly milled flour is flour that is simply just ground freshly from the wheat berries. Freshly milled flour has a lot more flavor and it's more nutrient dense than what you will find on your store shelves. And so many people are making the switch to freshly milled flour as we are learning about the benefits of using freshly milled flour. I am using an entry-level flour grinder and they run the gamut in prices online. Do your own research, find what works for you. We are a small family and I don't mill on a daily basis, so this works really great for me. I know once I have transferred over all of our recipes to freshly milled flour, I'm probably going to be grinding flour more often and I might upgrade to a different machine, but for now, this works just fine. In under a minute, I can have powdery, soft flour ready for use. So the creator that I'm following for this pasta recipe was very specific about what she does. And again, I will link her information in the description box so that she can get credit for this because this was not my doing. Again, I'm new, probably about 8 months now into using freshly milled flour, so I still have a lot to learn. But pasta has been something that I wanted to master for a very long time. We love pasta. It's so simple. It's so easy to do, especially if we're having a busy weekday. I love to just have pasta going, and I can even say to my kids, go ahead and make some pasta because that's one meal that they can put together on their own. And now that I have this creator's directions on how to do this with freshly milled flour, I am just ecstatic that we can do this, do it quickly, and have fresh pasta for dinner pretty much any night that we want. The directions are very simple. It's 500 grams of durum wheat berries. I believe it's 140 grams of water plus 1 egg and 7 grams of salt. You're going to follow the directions to put this in your pasta maker, and Once it runs through the 3-minute cycle, you're going to turn the pasta maker off. Let it sit for about 15 minutes for the wheat flour to absorb all the liquid that you have placed into the machine. And once it's done that soak through after 15 minutes or so, you're going to turn the machine on again, run it through the entire 3-minute cycle, and then have it extrude your pasta. I've done this over and over again several times, and I just love that it's simple and it works wonderfully. So on this day, I was making some spaghetti, as well as I was grounding up some chicken so I could put it in our goulash. Now, you've seen me use this machine before. It's just a quick food grinder. And if you've watched my previous videos, you know that I like to buy a whole chicken. But when I break down a whole chicken, I like to reserve the chicken breast for times like this. So I have about 4 chicken breasts reserved, and I'm going to ground it myself. And now I'm going to use that to make the meat sauce that will go with the pasta. So while my pasta maker is turned off and the flour is absorbing all the liquid, I'm getting the ground chicken ready for my meat sauce. Now my meat sauce is very simple. It will have the ground chicken, it will have my Jamaican green sauce, and it will have any herbs that I would like to add. It will have some all-purpose, some Italian seasoning, some parsley, salt, pepper, all that to taste. And it will also have some of my home canned pasta sauce as well. It is almost time to restock my pantry, so I will have a canning video coming up very soon. I am in need of barbecue sauce. I also need some ketchup, as well as some pasta sauce. I always like to throw in some applesauce as well. So I'm going to be doing some canning in a couple of weeks. I probably also need to do a few more containers of jam, and so I will have a big day of canning video coming up in a couple of weeks for anyone who's interested in that content. Canning is one of my most favorite food preservation options, and because I do small batch canning, I do it maybe once a month, possibly every 2 months. It all depends on how many things I can and how often we use those things that I can. But I use probably at least a few times a week something from my pantry that I had stocked up. So it's possible to do canning on a small scale like I do. Again, I do a monthly shop, and when I can buy things in excess at a discount, I like to do that, and then I can it so that in a subsequent month when it's not on sale, for example, I have it in my pantry and I can reach for it and I can use it. So I love canning. It usually takes all day when I do it, but I will do another big video soon for anyone who wants to see that. Again, I am not a channel for canning tutorials, so I will say this and I will continue to say this. It's a home preservation option for anyone who would like to do that, but it's really important that you do your own research, you find recipes that you like and recipes that you can trust. It's important that you follow the steps for hygiene, keeping your space clean, for sanitizing your jars, and all of those things. It's really important that you do your own research so that you can get the result that you're looking for. So spring is a wonderful time to start getting your canning ideas together. For those of you who are getting your gardens ready, good luck to you. Let me know if there's anything in particular that you're looking forward to canning this year. I don't have a home garden, but like I shared in a previous video, when I go to the grocery store, if I can get anything in bulk, at a discount. I like to pick those up and then I will put those away on my shelf for later use. So back to homeschooling really quickly. Homeschooling for us, like I said, is a lifestyle. And one of the big things I'm trying to impart with my children is the whole idea of sustainable living and self-sufficient living. And so through our daily conversations and them observing me and helping me in the kitchen every day, they're able to gain these skills that I learned much of later in life, but I can impart these on them early on. We can talk about the importance of a nutritious diet, a diet that is nutrient dense. We all gravitate to convenience, and when we go to the grocery store, we want to grab the things that are easy to do, or the things that are prepackaged and the things that look attractive to us. But the minute we turn those containers around and we check the ingredients, we quickly see that either it contains bioengineered ingredients or ingredients we can't even pronounce. So I grew up in a household where we used whole foods. We used things that we could pronounce. I can tell, okay, that's chicken or that's a carrot. And that's how my parents prepared our meals. We did not use a lot of packaged things. We did not use a lot of processed meats and products. And when I became an adult and it was my turn to fully take over my own nutrition and my own eating habits, I leaned on that a little bit. But then when I became a working parent, a wife, I was wanting things to be a bit more convenient. And so my shopping habits shifted for a little bit because I wanted to make sure I was providing for my family, but also not spend all day in the kitchen. And so we leaned on convenience for a bit. Now I am retraining myself. I'm going back to my roots and I am reading labels again, and I am reaching for those whole foods, those things that are actually going to fuel my body and fuel my family's bodies. And so if it does take all day to prep in the kitchen, I can do that because I now see the value in that. And I have learned to take 1 day or 2 days to prep so that the following days in the week are not so tough. You know, I prep ahead so that I can make those meals convenient for us. Canning is one way that makes things convenient. It's right there. Much of it is already prepared and I can just crack open a can. I can dump it into whatever we're cooking, and those nutrients that I'm looking for are right there. They're preserved. So my motto in the kitchen now is having that homemade feel, taste, look, texture, etc., but having it also be convenient. And that's something I'm striving for, making things convenient so that I don't go back to the prepackaged and I don't go back to what is easy for us to do. We're still having nutritious meals, delicious meals, but now I have figured out a way to make those things more convenient for us and more accessible, especially to my children, so that they too, they can see the value and they can learn the skills so that they can take those into their adulthood. So here is our spread for the day. It was a very simple homemaking day. I really just wanted to put together a few things that we could grab and go before our field trip on the following day. And I'm showing you what I prepared for dinner. So I made some spaghetti and meat sauce for dinner. For most of us, not everybody likes the spaghetti with the chicken meat sauce, and so I make spaghetti with shrimp for those who would prefer that. I also made 2 loaves of bread. I made some banana chocolate chip muffins. I made a salad. For dessert, we had the chocolate chip, peanut butter chip cookies. And like I shared before, my family loved them. But for me, I found them to be a little bit dry. I do not have a recipe for that, but I will try to find a recipe online so that I can link that in the description box below. The recipe for the bread, as well as the banana muffins and the goulash, should be on my blog on wix.com, and I will link that in the description box for those of you who might be interested. Now, if I don't have a specific banana muffin mix on the blog, it's very simple. You can take any muffin mix and just add bananas and watch your hydration level to create banana chocolate chip muffins. If you need a specific recipe, I can get one up for you if that's what you're interested in as well. So I thank you guys for joining me today, for watching this video. Again, anything you need should be on the website on wix.com. If it's not there, it should be in the description box below. If you have questions or comments about anything you have seen in today's video, if you'd like to hear more about our homeschooling style, if you would like to hear anything else about what we're doing for homeschooling, you can let me know in the comment section below. We are in the planning phase of the year 2025-2026. So if you're interested in curriculum that we might be using, feel free to drop a comment below and I will try to address those questions in a subsequent video. Thanks once again for joining me here on For Your Heart and Home. My name is Dee Dee. Please feel free to leave a comment and I will catch you in the next one.